As we celebrate Black History Month, it is so important for the work that we do on behalf of our students here at Raritan Valley Community College, and especially with our co-sponsor being our Brothers Helping Brothers group with Jeff Warren. And Jeff, you want to stand? And myself working with Sister to Sister Network. Our focus has been this semester on being able to provide our students opportunities to sit down and have conversations with some professional staff and administrators and folks around their experiences in college and their journeys along the way in terms of success. And I couldn't think of a better person to invite here to Raritan for a larger session to talk with our students and our RVCC community and family around their success. And oftentimes along the journey, we meet people who have been inspirational to us, who have planted some seeds of wisdom that helps us to grow and to think of things differently, to improve in terms of our own personal commitment and development. And that would be Dr. James Anderson, who is the Chancellor for Fayetteville State University. Oftentimes, I have seen Dr. Anderson in terms of his presentations talking to faculty, staff, and administrators about being student-centered and to find ways for students to be successful. Whether or not I have seen him along the journey of working with the Institute for Teaching and Mentoring, having PhD scholars in the room, inspiring them to go out and continue the work and to move the agenda further. So without further ado, I want to turn this program over to someone who, you know, I had the opportunity to spend some time today talking to him. He has continued to be a resource and been very open to come to New Jersey and spend the day with us, and that's Dr. James Anderson.
I can't stand near there, so I have a lavalier. Well, first of all, good afternoon to all of you, and thank you for taking the time out to be here. It's better than being outside, let me tell you. It's even cold in North Carolina. But I've had the opportunity over the years to work a lot with schools in Jersey, 2-year and 4-year. I've been a consultant for different things, for the Achieving the Dream, for the retention effort, for TRIO programs. So I probably work with about 30 schools in Jersey. Even though I'm a president of a university, I still teach. I teach my psychology courses. And over the years, no matter where I worked, I always taught because that always kept me closer to students. And I always asked to have the group of students who come in their first semester of college, who might be at risk, who might not be ready for college, whether they're traditional age, whether they're returning adults, it doesn't matter. I always felt I could do a good job introducing students to not only psychology, but to the culture of college. And that's important for a lot of students. They don't connect with the culture of college when they first get there. You see the cover of my book. My book focuses a lot on how diverse students do in college, but especially the academic area. Talking about diversity without talking about academic success, to me, is a waste of time, because you can bring students who are very diverse to your campus, but if they don't succeed, if they don't get stronger in their skills and their competencies, if they're not ready to move into the global marketplace when they leave, then what have you done for them? So just saying, you know, we got 37% here? 37% minority students at Raritan. Hey, that's nice. All I want to know is what happens to them. I don't want to know how many you have here. I want to know how well do they do, what happens to them, how successful are they, what skills do they have, do the employers want them, etc. Those are the things that are important. Same thing is true for women in science or engineering, etc. So today I'm going to try to do a presentation And the first part of the presentation is going to be geared towards the students, okay? And because I identify with you. I mean, I remember what it was like to be a student. I spent a lot of time with my students. I came from a tough background. I grew up in D.C., didn't have any parents. I don't even know my parents' name. Lived in the streets, ran with gangs, ate out of garbage cans, stole to eat. It was two groups of women that took care of me, the nuns at my elementary school and the prostitutes in the neighborhood. And both groups of women raised me until a family took me in when I was 13. So I remember my roots and my background. And even though I'm a college president, I don't think any different than from where I came from. Okay, and I identify with kids and students who come out of tough circumstances. So, why are you here today, students? Did you come for the food? Go ahead, be honest. Did you come for the food, man? Huh? No? Okay. Well, while you're here, for however long you stay, I want you to be real authentic participants in what goes on, because this is serious business. You know, your success is serious business. Some of you can't project where you're going to be 5 or 10 years from now. You can't project that because you're not sure. My friend here, what's your name again? Michelle is going to go into neuroscience. So we had a good discussion about that. Just so happens my daughter's a nurse in Houston, and she's in the neurology unit in Houston with all the stroke victims. So we talked a little bit about it, and she knows what she has to do to become a neuroscientist. Some of you might not really be that sure about where you're going to be, what you're going to do 5, 10 years from now. That's okay. But in having an authentic conversation, that means you're going to be open, honest, very thoughtful. Jump down to the bottom. Everybody's comments are going to be respected. There's no dumb comment. There's no bad comment. Everybody's comments in here are going to be respected, so you can say what you want to say. But the goal for today is really to have you think about yourself or to think about your group. Okay, for example, the lowest performing group in college throughout the country, 2-year and 4-year, are minority males, Black and Latino males. Lowest performing group in the country nationally. So, if we think about that group and what we have to do to produce success among that group, that's a group discussion. By the same token, individually, you might be weak in math, you might be weak in your writing skills, etc. You might not be a conceptual thinker. So that's an individual aspect of it. So we want to talk a little bit about where you are, where you think you are, how you can get to other places, what certain things mean. A lot of times people talk about diversity, they talk about diversity in a real global way and don't really get down to the nitty-gritty of what it means. For example, if I talk about student diversity, I'm talking about within group and between groups. I might talk about demographic characteristics. I just gave you an example. Lowest performing group, minority males. See, that's a demographic description of a group not doing well. Social human relational skills, interaction skills, how you interact. Why is it that some students don't go see their instructors when they're having difficulty? Why is it some students do? Okay. Learning styles, learning strategies, task completion skills. Why is it some students really bear down, spend a lot of time, think about answering math problems, for example, versus other students who, as soon as they see they can't do the math problem, they give up. There might be a student who has the same skill level as a student that gave up, but they don't walk away from it. They'll spend an hour trying to figure out how to do that math problem. But they're the same skill level as the student who gave up. Why is that? Psychological characteristics, non-cognitive factors, a lot of things that have to do with emotional reasons why students don't have academic self-esteem, don't have academic confidence, don't think they can do certain things, don't think they can major in certain things. Okay? They don't know whether they can or can't. They just think they can't. Information processing skills. Now that we use computers so much, suppose you're a verbal learner and not a visual learner. That's your learning style. You prefer to learn by reading or hearing the spoken word, not visually looking at things. Well, you're in trouble when you're in courses with a lot of computer work because everything there is visual. So if your preferred learning style is verbal, maybe you shouldn't be in that section of that course if it's highly visual. Okay? So diversity can mean a lot of things. It can be a combination of these things. You can have a certain learning style. You could come from a demographic background. Your information processing skills can be certain. way. So it's usually a combination. It's not any one thing that defines you as a student or as a learner. But I can tell you one thing. From the research, we know the students that do the best in college are analytical learners. Analytical learners. Guess what? Most students of color are not analytical learners. They're a different kind of learner. Now, when you talk about learning styles, you don't make evaluative judgments. You don't say one is better or worse than the other. Learning styles are just kind of how you evolved in culture, how you evolved in the schools you went to, your family background, etc. Okay? Learning styles are also tied to class. If I map the learning styles of students in Louisiana, in Appalachia, in poor sections of Jersey, their learning styles pretty much map the same way. If I map the learning styles of rich kids in all those areas, they tend to be more analytical because rich kids went to better schools. Real simple. Okay? See how class now links up with learning style, which links up with culture, which links up with a lot of things. But never let anyone believe that their learning style, make you believe that their learning style is better than yours. All learning styles are the same. They just evolve differently. Okay? So, I know most of the students here and a lot of the other folks here don't know the best research and all that in the country about success in college, but here's what you can offer as a student here at Raritan. You're an active participant here. This is your drama. Going to college at Raritan is your drama. I call it negotiating the culture of college. You're the lead actor, you're the backup singer, you're the second string quarterback, you're the lead trumpet player, you're an observer in the stands, you're the sleeping giant, or maybe you're a scholar. Figure out where you are among all those descriptions. This is your campus. You can make suggestions about what's good for you. You can tell these people in here, the people in here that came to hear this presentation care about you. The people that are sitting in here. So when something's not going right in a class, in a support program, etc., you can say it to people. You can say, you know, I think this could be done a better way. Or you're not really reaching us like you should. Or I'm not getting the skills that I should. Or they're not working in this class I go into. Okay? So your experiences are important. And your voice, the student voice, is important here at Raritan. So don't be afraid to collectively say certain things, okay, if they're not going the right way. And on the other side, the faculty members, the staff, the administrators, we have to support students in their journey in terms of helping them become more skilled or doing better in courses, etc. So I like to say to students, what does it take for you to go from being ordinary to extraordinary? What do you think in college? Just guess. What do you think? Mentoring. So he said one of the things that'll help me go from being ordinary to extraordinary is if I have a really good mentor who's a real good guide, etc. What else? Trying new things. Being innovative. Being a risk taker. Everybody's not a risk taker. Stepping outside the comfort zone. Okay? Which is leadership.
Yeah, leadership for yourself and others around you.
Okay, so finding people to connect with you who like you, who want to be leaders and have directions. Okay. So, in order to do those things, you got to think differently about yourself and about situations. You have to think at a deeper level. Okay? So, let's look at a couple questions. All the questions have to do with Raritan Valley. Imagine that Raritan Valley had unlimited resources to create the optimal success model here for diverse students. They could do anything they wanted. Now, this is for everybody, not just the students. This is for you too, Paul. Imagine you had unlimited money here to do anything that you wanted to create the optimal success environment for the students at Raritan Valley, especially the diverse students. What's one thing you would do? See, if you don't come up with an answer, I'm not going to give you that money. Like I was going to give it to you anyway, right? A residential option. Did you hear that? A residential option. If you go down to Durham, North Carolina right now, one of the schools in Durham, North Carolina Central, has just signed an agreement with some community colleges where while the students are in community college, they live on campus at Central, at the four-year institution, and then when they transfer, they've already had an experience, a residential experience at North Carolina Central. It's one of the few institutions doing that in the country right now. So imagine that you could live on Rutgers campus. I don't know, is Rutgers close here? Yes. Yeah, you could live on Rutgers campus, just like freshmen do, in the residence hall, but you're taking your courses at Raritan. So when you finish your associate's degree, when you transfer, don't you feel more acclimated to Rutgers now? Because you've lived there. So that's one. That's a good example. What's another? Huh? Free books. Free books. So at my institution, students don't buy books. They pay $141 a semester and rent all their books. So they may have $900 worth of books. It's just $141 a semester. By the way, we use the same company you do, Follett. I already told your people to go talk to Follett and say, we want the same deal they got down there in North Carolina. What else? Any other suggestions? Unlimited resource. You can do anything you want here to promote student success. Yes, sir. Some kind. So have better modes of transportation for students to get back and forth. That's a little tougher. That's one of the tougher ones. I mean, you can have bus services and all of that, but that's a little tougher because that incurs an expense. But then again, unlimited resources, yeah. Increase the availability of tutoring and mentoring and the quality of it, maybe upgrade the quality of it. Okay, these are all good suggestions, okay? Now, if you decide to do that, so there's a community college in the state of Washington I work with, South Central Community College, which is in Seattle. And when I started working with them, they took on that question. If we had unlimited resources, what could we do? And I said, well, you're not going to have unlimited resources, but let's play like you do. And write down your wish list of all the things you... I'm sorry, man.
Oh, never mind. Unlimited resources?
Yeah, you got another one?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, unlimited resources, basically. We could... Our goals here would be reached much quickly and less painful.
Yes, well, that's right. He's right. He said the goals that you have here could be reached quicker and less painfully. And that's absolutely true. So I'm working with Seattle Central, and I gave them this task. They came up with these ideas. And the first thing we did was remove the ones that were real costly from the list and kept the ones that were reasonable cost on the list. Then we sat down and figured out how we could really do them at Seattle Central. And that changed their whole model of thinking as a community college. Okay? See, a lot of community colleges are locked into an old way of thinking. Like, this is how it's always been done in New Jersey community colleges. But notice, I just shared one with you about community college students living in residence halls of a four-year campus. And that seemed new, didn't it? Okay? But it wasn't a radical. But it's making a difference for those students. It's really making a difference for them. And it's attracting more students because they want to do this. Okay? And they've got the cost down. So they don't charge, for example, the community college students that live on the campus, they don't pay the same amount as the four-year students who live on that campus because most of them are in a different income category. So they worked it out to do it, okay? So in order to think about what you need for yourself and what you need out of better programs, you have to think at a deeper level. You can't think at a shallow level about it. You have to think at a pretty deep level, okay? And when you have a conversation, you stay away from general statements and try to have more specific statements about something. So rather than talk in general about how Raritan can be better, focus on a specific area and try to narrow the comment or the question down to something that's a lot more specifically. For example, think about what major you ultimately want to go into. Like Michelle wants to go into neuroscience. What are the two factors that made you choose that area? First of all, what's the area? Information technology. What made you want to choose that?
I've always been interested in computers since I was young, and from what I see, since everybody's transitioning over to electronics and things become more network, I see it as more of a secure financial.
Okay, so it's a combination of an interest you had when you were young, And you see it as a secure financial future?
Yes.
All right, good. Who else?
Michelle. Well, I like neuroscience because it's a challenge. It's not something you can easily,
Okay, so that's one.
Yeah, it's a challenge, and it's also financial as well, but I also see
Okay.
that it's growing.
So for Michelle, she picked an area that's a challenge. Neuroscience is a challenge. And she says it also has a financial reward down at the end of the road.
Total 3 other things. History.
2. I asked you for 2.
Oh, 2. In philosophy.
Philosophy. Okay, why'd you pick philosophy?
Well, I'm sorry. Well, I'm a natural philosopher and I'm good at it. Everything that I see is basically related to philosophy. One extreme or another.
That's one.
It's a history, too.
Okay, so he said there's a natural attraction for him to philosophy because he likes to philosophize. Anybody here know him? Does he philosophize a lot? Okay. So I just want to see if he was lying or not. So he has this natural attraction to philosophy, and he said it has a historical basis to it. The reason people choose a major or an academic area of interest, people have all kinds of reasons. I'm a psychologist. Do you know why I chose psychology? First of all, I had no answers to my life early on. Since I had no parents, I had no childhood, there were things I couldn't answer. I would go to my friends' houses as a teenager who had big families, and I would sit there and watch these people interact and all this noise and everything. And I didn't understand it, and usually I had to leave after 30 minutes because it bothered me so, because my whole life had been by myself. And so I needed answers in my life about how I developed emotionally and everything, so I chose psychology. See, your choice sometimes can be personal. It can be because you want money. It can be because it's a challenge. It can be because it's something personal. You feel you're a philosopher. There are a lot of different reasons why. So our job is often to help people find out what those reasons are, because sometimes they may be in the wrong area. They may have chosen something for the wrong reasons, but when you're talking to them or you're surveying them, you can help them find that. Okay? A lot of people have financial stressors in their life. So if they have financial stressors, is there something we can do as an institution to help them out? That's why we went to book rentals. Our students were 3rd and 4th week into class and hadn't bought the text yet. I said, we got to do something about this. So that's why I went and we talked to the people from Follett, and I said, can we just come up with one fee? They can rent their books for the whole semester, then they turn them back in, unmarked up, so we can give them to the next set of students, the next semester and all. So it's worked out pretty well for our students. That's just because I knew that that was a financial stressor for our students, the cost of textbooks. Okay, so if there are other financial stressors, what can we do to try to help them? Now, think about yourself in number 3. Think about yourself sitting in a class, any class. What matters most to you in terms of learning? Sitting in any class. What matters? Grade? This is Mr. Question over here. Yes, sir.
You got Kevin. Let Kevin go first.
Huh?
Well, I would say, how can I apply this that I'm learning to my personal life and enhance
Okay.
myself or other people around me?
So how can he apply what he's learning to his personal life? That's something that's important to him. Some courses, there'll be a lot of stuff you can learn that applies easily. Some courses, there'll be things that won't apply much at all. Okay.
Well, I don't like the idea of me being forced to think. Like basically, my comfort zone of thinking is thinking outside my comfort zone. Basically, we live in a college facility that pretty much it doesn't allow you to think whatever way you think in terms of your understanding. Basically, they're more inflexible about the way they teach students as well as students being able to learn them. So that's my way of thinking.
Okay.
So
You want me to translate that for them?
yeah, translate it.
So, what's your name again?
Rob.
Rob. So Rob is very focused on, in a classroom, wondering, first of all, why they're thinking about his way of thinking, but he also wants to focus on being able to think out of the box and come up with other ways of thinking about how the material is being taught. Is that fair to say?
Yeah.
Okay. Who else? Yes, sir.
Your perspective to life. Not only learning because of the learning sake, but analyze information and know why that is the answer to that.
Okay. So he really wants to get into the analysis of information, not just Do I have to learn the information? Do I have to get the grade? But why am I learning this information? Why is it important? What does it have to do with my life, etc.? One more.
Sometimes I think about how.
You already gave me one, though.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
Sometimes,
That was another question? Okay.
sometimes I think about how can I apply this to, my current job or, future career. Like, how can I apply some of these skills I'm learning in, like, the English class or the history class and, like, apply that to, to better myself, in terms of, like, soft skills and things like that.
Okay. Now, all of you that answered, let me ask you a question. If you got a D in that course, but you still were able to get out of it what you just said, would that be okay? Huh? Yes or no? That's a yes or no question. So, see, for him, he said it's okay. He said, if I can get this out of it and get a D, I'm okay with that. You? You've done it before.
I say no because college don't care what you get out of it. So look at the grade.
Okay.
They do that deal with all.
Okay, so here's what I'm confronting you with. There's a realistic aspect of going to college. And you know what that realistic aspect is? You have to perform. You have to perform. You can have other goals and motivations, but at the end of the day, you have to perform. If you don't perform, they don't transfer to Rutgers. And you sure ain't gonna transfer to where I went to school, Cornell, if you don't perform, right? So you can have your other reasons for learning, but you gotta put those other reasons up there and know that you still have to perform, okay? That's not to give away any of the other reasons why you choose an academic program or why you do something in a course. But keep in mind, now, what was the first signal that you had in number 4 that maybe college was going to be tough for me? What was the first signal? Was it in the classroom? Was it outside of the classroom? I'll give you an example for me when I went to grad school. So I'd done well all my life from kindergarten through my years at Villanova. I got nothing but pretty much A's, a B here and there. I get to Cornell, in my first semester I take an advanced stat course. I get an F on the first exam. I'm sitting there like just looking at this F, like in disbelief. I went up to the instructor, I said, man, you graded this wrong. Because in my life, my history had been nothing but A's and a couple B's. And he laughed, he chuckled, he said, yeah, I graded it wrong, huh, yeah? He said, well, let me show you all the things you did wrong. And he sat there and just took me through the whole exam and showed me everything I did wrong. So my first notion of going to grad school at an Ivy League school was, whoa, this stuff is gonna be hard. This is gonna be real hard. So for you, coming to Raritan, let's say, what was the first thing that made you think college might be a little bit more difficult? Was it you had to study more? What was it? Time management. Because you don't have that structured day like you had in high school.
The ambition, because I came here after taking a year off after graduating high school, so the ambition was always shaky.
So he took a year off, see, after graduating high school. When you take off time, like a lot of students think, I want to work for a year or two. Then they forget how to study. Then they forget how to study.
I think juggling your school workload versus like your workload.
If you have a job. Yeah. So juggling school workload, and that's the whole time management thing. Juggling school workload with having a job. Okay?
To me, it was discipline. I didn't have that.
Being disciplined, like stick to it.
Yeah, not like.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the question for the students. So y'all heard the answers. Raritan administrators, faculty, and staff. So I'm sure you have things in place here to deal with these issues with them, right? Right? So students, they said they have things in place here to help you deal with all these comments that were just made. Is that right? Okay, good. So that's a good matchup, see? Except for our philosopher. Rob, let's hear it, Rob.
All right, well, you spoke your personal, well, my personal experience with the first signal was my few mental disorders. I get a little sidetracked with information. But from your point of view, how you mention it, and this is my point of view, but I'm a warrior inside. I'm a moral because basically, even though with the mental disorders, I overcame certain successes that people with them couldn't be able to achieve. So basically, I'm pretty much near the top, how I look at it. So I'm persevering every single day.
I hear that, man. I hear that. In number 5, are you uncomfortable using technology in courses? Why? What is it that makes it uncomfortable for you? Uncomfortable. Who's uncomfortable? Anybody? Using technology in courses? Oh, that's good. Almost no discomfort. That's good. Now, let me show you an example of what research shows. Remember I talked about the low performance of minority males nationally, in especially black and Latino males? That's just for now. It'll get better. Here's what the research says. Here are some of the reasons why minority males have anxiety in terms of college completion. Just look at that list for a second. Now, tell me something you see about that list. When you look at that list, what's something you see? Yes. Okay. Another way of saying that is most of those things aren't academic. They aren't academic. So, if that's the case, if you look around at programs that are set up to help minority males, are they addressing these things? Yeah, most of them don't. Most of them don't.
I have a question about what you said about unrealistic goals.
Go ahead. What's your question?
My question is, why do people have the audacity to say that your goal is unrealistic, and yet it may not be realistic for them because it's not their path. Your path would be more realistic than their path.
That's a good question.
That's an unrealistic goal.
Let me repeat his question so you could hear it. He said, you know, why do people have the audacity to tell you that your goals are unrealistic when to you they may be very realistic? Let me give you an example. When I was teaching psychology courses, so I had this student named Chet. Chet thought he was the bomb, right? So when Chet got ready to graduate, he wanted to go to med school. So he came up to see me, and I said, Chet, you getting ready to graduate? What you gonna do, man? He said, Doc, I'm going to med school. I said, Chet, hold on one second, because Chet was a psych major. I went down to the office, I got his transcript, I brought it back down to my office, I said, Chet, this is your transcript. You got a D or F in every science and math course you've taken since you've been here. What in God's name makes you think you're gonna go to med school? See, Chet had an unrealistic perception of himself. Chet thought he was going to grad school. Reality said, they're not even gonna look at your application, because you got a D or F in every science and math course you have. I wasn't being audacious in saying anything to him. I was giving homeboy a reality check. That's what I was doing. So sometimes people say that to you because they're giving you a reality check. Sometimes your advisors and your mentor students have to come on strong to you to make you understand the point that you think you're going to do X and you haven't made the investment to do X. And you're not ready to do X. And it's our responsibility to tell you you're not ready to do X. But my next statement should be, but if you want to do X, here's what we can set up to help you reach that goal. Not just beat up on you because you haven't done the things you need to do. A lot of students have poor writing skills. They don't realize it because they think they're so fluent in terms of talking with their friends. And they're so articulate and they rapping and they just fluent and this and that. And they can't even write a good paragraph. That's a disconnect. See, that's a disconnect in what you do in your out of college experience, which is casual. You may be very fluent there, but in the reality, you can't write a business letter, you can't do a resume, etc. If you don't address that, it's going to come back and bite you in the butt because you're being unrealistic. You're thinking, I can keep going through Raritan and then on to somewhere else and then on to a job, and I can still be a very poor writer. Don't fool yourself. Don't fool yourself. You either are going to address it or you aren't. So I'm giving you examples of see how students can be unrealistic. And somebody has to tell them. Yeah, somebody has to tell them about that sometimes. Okay? So this is what the research says. Therefore, when you set up programs, you have to know what the source of a problem is before you set the program up. So we have a minority male program. We have 2 or 3 of them on my campus. One for students who first enter, one for upper class students. The upper class students are the peer mentors for the lower class students. All of our minority male students wear sport coats and bow ties, the color of the university's colors. We pay for everything. All the men who work as administrators or faculty, we take all our suits that we don't wear anymore and our sport coats, and we have them in a clothing closet, and the students go and get stuff, okay? We want them every day to dress professional, think professional, carry yourself with class. You can't miss tutoring. If you miss more than 2 tutoring sessions, you're out of the program. We bounce you out. See, there's certain mandates, certain criteria that you have to adhere to be part of a good program. There's no such thing as having a good program where students come if they want and don't come if they don't want to. What kind of tutoring program do you have for at-risk students where students come if they want to and don't come if they don't want to? You don't have any kind of viable program. That's foolishness. That's all that is. Okay? Because that means you're going to reward students who don't come just as much as you're rewarding them that do come. That's crazy. Okay? So here's how one school, Santa Barbara City College, community college in Santa Barbara. I said San Diego, I meant Santa Barbara. This is how they deal with minority males. So they have a very strong program, and these are the things that they do. Okay? Students have developed very strong academic plans, and the academic plans are updated on a consistent basis. Whole time they're to the community college, all the way through, they're transferring to a 4-year school. The students work in mentored cohorts, so in small groups of related academic interests, the students in science, the students in healthcare, the students in business, the students in this, they work in small cohorts. Or the cohorts may be students who are most at risk, might be a cohort by themselves. Intensive counseling and tutoring. Students come to class on time and are always prepared. If you don't come to class on time, you don't get in. If you don't come prepared, you're asked to leave. Real simple. We're not here for foolishness. We're not here for you coming late, and we're not here for foolishness. When I teach my psych courses, for the students who come unprepared or come late, the last 2 rows of the classroom are for you. Everybody else sits up front. I can't keep you out of the class by law, but you're going to sit in the last 2 rows so everybody knows who the klutzes are. And you won't get in a study group with them. So what happens when they become publicly identified as that? They want to come up front. So they start coming on time, they start doing their work. Okay. Students practice writing lab reports. Students and their advisors have a prescribed set of courses that you must take. So if I go to the lengths of making sure that I get the best instructors in science and math for you, if they're at 8 o'clock, don't come to me and say, you know, I'm not a morning person, Doc. I need to take a 2 o'clock section. And I said, but the best instructor in math is in this 8 o'clock section, and the scourge of mathematics is in the 2 o'clock section. Why are you going to tell me you taking the 2 o'clock section? Well, first of all, you're not going to tell me, because if you're in my minority male program, you're going to do what we say you do. Because I've been at this higher ed thing for a whole lot of years, and you haven't. So I think I know a little bit more than you. Okay? I'm saying that to you students so, you know, when you whine because there's certain criteria and mandates to a program, understand why those things are in place. It's to make you be disciplined and mature about approaching your education. Here's an example I showed to the faculty this morning, that if we could put together a real top-notch model of what your learning should look like here or anywhere, what would it look like? It would look like this. These are all the things we can do. We'd address academic success. We'd address your transition in the first year. We'd address your transition to a four-year institution. We do some self-assessment, have you look at yourself in terms of your career, your learning style, your self-esteem, your discipline, your motivation, etc. That's what a top-notch model looks like. You know why most schools don't have a top-notch model? Because you can't afford to do all of that well. Financially, you really can't. It costs money to do a lot of that. So what you do is you pick out the most important things that you can do and let some of the others go maybe to a later point in time. So if you looked at that list, students, just look at all of those things. Your first semester coming to Raritan, which one of those things would be most important for you? Your first or second semester here, what would be most important for you? Okay, Michelle says study skills.
Intrusive advising and mentoring.
Intrusive advising and mentoring. Okay.
College course analysis and time management.
Time management and college course analysis. Getting to know yourself as a learner. See, most students don't know themselves as a learner. If you say something to them about how you process information in the classroom, they don't know what you're talking about. How you process information in the classroom. I'm going to show you that in a second, so you'll see. Because that has to do with your learning style. So see, when Raritan decides they want to put together a holistic model of retention, it's going to kind of look like that. And as I said, you may not be able to give equal time to everything, but what you do is you look at the different student populations. For example, returning adults tend to be more disciplined and mature about studying than traditional age students. So maybe that part I don't need so much for my program for my returning adults, because they got that part pretty well. They're at a point in their life where they in serious business while they're coming back to college. Okay, so that part might not be needed. So you look at the population, and then you look at these things, and you see, if you're going to go into an area, where's my philosophy? Let's say he's going to go into philosophy. Maybe information and computer literacy isn't as important for him right now, but it might be later on. Okay. We asked all the schools in the University of North Carolina system, which I'm in, we asked all the schools to give us some feedback on the strengths of their programs right now. So there's a lot of different kind of schools. We have top-notch research universities like Chapel Hill, University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, NC State, et cetera. We got historically black colleges. We got a Native American university, UNC Pembroke, which was founded for Native American students. We got a whole range of things. So we asked the students and the staff primarily, not faculty, but students and staff primarily, tell us about the strengths of the programs on your campuses. And this is what they came back with. So I'm going to guess, as you look at that list, there are 2, 3, 4 things there that match up with Raritan, right? So tell me 2 or 3 or 4 things there that match up with Raritan. Okay, is that on that list? Okay, I know you're a philosopher, so when I ask a question, you translate it into something else, right? The question was, look at those 8 things and find the ones that match up with the strengths at Raritan. Yes, sir. Kevin.
Number 4, nurturing and dedicated.
Nurturing and dedicated faculty and staff. Everybody agree? Do students all agree? No? Well, what'd I say? Respect everybody's comments? Remember that? All right. You don't comment on their comments. What other ones? Yes, sir. Positive male role models. Okay. So minority males have enough positive male role models here? Well, potential? The few are here. But your role models don't have to be minority males. I look at my life, my role models have been white women, white males, people of color, a whole lot of people. So it doesn't always have to be minority males. But that means you have to have perhaps white males or Latino males step up to the plate to take that role on, and they can't be afraid to do it. What else? That's 2. Number 7, strong programs in disciplines. Okay? Yes, sir. Early identification of at-risk students and an early warning system. Good early warning system. Okay? Yes, sir. Last one. Number 2, outreach programs and engaged alumni. Which one? Is it the outreach programs or the engaged alumni? Or both?
Both. I would say
Engaged alumni. Good. Okay. So you have things you can already build on. Okay? Don't ever think you don't have assets and strengths that you can't build on. You do. But what happens is sometimes the 1 or 2 gaps that exist are big gaps. And they're big gaps that can have a major impact. Even when you have strengths. Sometimes if you have a big gap. So this morning I'm talking with the faculty and I said to them, tell me the 10, 15, or 20 courses here at Raritan that have the highest percentages of D's, F's, and W's. Tell me the 10, 15, 20 courses here that have the highest percentage of D's, F's, and W's. I said, do you all know what they are? So first of all, they didn't know what they were. Okay, that's first thing. And I said, if you're looking for some place to attack that. You know why? Look at those courses and see who has the D's, F's, and W's in those courses. You have a high percentage of minority students. You have a high percentage of first-generation students. You have a high percentage of returning adult students. See, a lot of your diversity that you want to talk about at Raritan, you know, we got 37% diverse students here. Oh, yeah? You also got a whole lot of diversity represented in those courses, those 20 courses that have the highest percentage of D's, F's, and W. So all of a sudden now I done burst your balloon about diversity at Raritan because you were bragging about your 37% diversity at Raritan, and I'm telling you that you're looking at the wrong thing because you need to be looking at who has the most D's, F's, and W's in these 20 courses. It's diverse students. See how you can look at something wrong and think it's an asset and it's not? That's what I'm not trying to beat up on you. I'm trying to make a point. It's the same on most community college campuses. That if you look at the highest percentage of D's, F's, and W's, it's among diverse students. With the biggest source of diversity being diversity of skill level. That's the biggest diversity on any community college. Go to California, go to Florida, all these states with a lot of diversity. Race, ethnicity, all of that, that's not your primary diversity. The primary diversity on any campus is the diversity of skill level. Okay? So y'all need to deal with the 20 courses before you walking around talking about, we got 37% diversity, you know, doing all that. Get your perspective right. So let's talk a little bit about learning styles. So students, I want you to kind of just walk away from here today with a sense of, and faculty, because you're teaching to learning styles. You have a teaching style. What does it mean to talk about learning styles? Well, here's how I define learning style. I did my doctorate on this. Your learning style is a preferred manner in which you organize and utilize your cognitive tools, anything between these ears. Preferred manner in which you organize and utilize your cognitive tools to make sense of the world. How you process information when you walk around the world. Sometimes when I'm at a basketball game, I sit there and I watch people when they walk in the game. When they walk into a basketball game, they kind of stop and they start scanning. I'm not going to sit over there because that looks like all faculty over there. I'm not going to sit over there. There's a lot of Muslims over there. Oh, yeah, that looks like where I might want to sit over there. In just seconds of processing information, You use your experiences and your background to make a decision about where you want to sit. See, that's your learning style. That's how you process information. So, you're in a class. You're taking a new class. You don't know the instructor. The instructor comes in wearing some funny combination of clothes, like they were colorblind or something. They just grabbed in the closet and put something on. Then they get up and they start talking funny. So they're talking funny, they're dressed funny, and you're sitting there looking at them, and you're already forming an opinion in 3 minutes. See, you're processing information. You're making judgments about the instructor. Okay? When we were walking down the hall today, it was a Muslim woman teaching a math course. Because I was looking at the board, what she had up on the board. Y'all might know who she is. I don't know who she is. She was just teaching it down the hall. She was looking at the math course. And I stopped and I looked at her and I said, for a lot of people, that would be a contradiction. To have this little Muslim woman in there teaching this high-level pre-calculus course. Okay? So see, processing information. We do it every day, every minute of every day. Y'all are processing information about me, standing here listening to me. Some of you are going to leave here and see somebody 3 hours ago and say, man, I went to hear this fool talk about 3 hours ago. He was just saying all this and this and this. He was philosophizing. Right? So the issue then, let's take this now to the college classroom, to the campus. Because this is critical in college classrooms. Because your learning style will have a lot to do with the strategies you choose to learn by. See, the learning strategies you choose are directly related to your preferred learning style. Okay? Now, are there certain aspects of learning that are peculiar to certain disciplines? Michelle's in neuroscience. Michelle must be an analytical learner. You know why? The content in neuroscience is analytical and abstract, and the instruction usually in neuroscience is analytical and abstract. Therefore, in order to be successful in that course, she must be an analytical learner. If she's not, she's going to struggle. Okay? Doesn't have to just be science and math that's analytical. Philosophy. Philosophy deals with abstract analytical concepts, comparing the theory of Nietzsche to somebody else, to Martin Luther King. One day I went into class when I was teaching intro, and I said to students, I just got a little task for you to do. Just take 1 minute to do a 1-minute paper. I said, compare the philosophies of Martin Luther King and Saddam Hussein concerning how they address the use of violence and nonviolence in their movement. That's all I said. Just write something down, 1 minute paper, compare and contrast the philosophies of Martin Luther King and Saddam Hussein in terms of how they chose violence or nonviolence to realize their goals. The students who were analytical finished the paper in a minute. The students who weren't either had nothing written or a few fragmented sentences that didn't make sense. See how easy that was to select out who was analytical and not analytical? It was very easy to select out. What type of learning style is preferred by most students that the faculty here teach? Well, we know that in community colleges, since they're open admissions institutions, you have a high percentage of students who are not analytical learners. Who are not analytical learners yet. Yet. They have to become analytical learners because success in college correlates with becoming an analytical learner. That you're able to deal with concepts and, high-level thinking and making decisions about choices, things you read, which theory is better than this theory, etc. So we got to move students from being less analytical to more analytical. And you got to have a process in place to do that. Okay? But we do know that in community college, a high percentage of the students that come to community college are not at the level of analytical learning yet where we want them to be. That's why you have to have a plan to get them there. Okay? So when I meet students, student comes, to my class and he asks a question in class, Or I ask a question in class, he raises his hand to answer it. He's like, you know, dog, you know, man, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da, and he's doing this and that. You know, man, you know where I'm coming from? You know where I'm coming from, Doc? I know that's a lot of work. That's all I'll say about that. That's a lot of work ahead of me with this guy. Okay? That he even believes that that presentation style has something to do with college. I mean, I've even stopped students in the middle of presentations. I went to a science presentation where several students were presenting their science projects, and they were competing with one another. They want to get prizes, and this one guy was going through his presentation so nice, and then he showed this instrument up on the slide. He said, y'all, this bad boy right here. And I stopped. I said, yo. I stood up, and I said, you know, my friend, your presentation was scientific. It was on par. You were doing what you were supposed to be doing. I said, and then you decided to get street and say, this bad boy here. I said, I don't want to hear any more of your presentation. Sit down. Sit down. Okay? Who in here thinks they're a visual learner? Visual learner. Okay, as opposed to, say, a verbal learner. That means when you process information, you'd rather get it visually than you would by reading it or hearing it. That's what being a visual learner means. Let's put your hands up again. All right, this is what visual learners do. When they see information, no matter where it comes from, newspaper, television, in a classroom, in the supermarket, it doesn't matter. Visual learners scan the information. I used to, long time ago, date this woman, and I hated going to the grocery store with her because every product she got ready to buy, she turned it on the back and scanned all the information. You know, calories, what percentage vitamin B, what percentage vitamin C, every damn thing we bought. So going to the store with her was like 2-3 hours. Because she was a visual learner. I hated that. She didn't understand when I was explaining to her why we weren't going to be together anymore. I'm like, it's the supermarket, honey. It's not you. It's not you. It's the supermarket. So, visual learners scan information. As they scan information, what do? They search for focal points, things that are familiar. Things that are familiar. When they're listening to you lecture, for example, they're listening to see whether or not you take the content and translate it into something interesting to them. That's what that means when you're lecturing, especially if you got science. Okay? I'm waiting for you to take this information that you're sitting here just making me so bored by. I'm waiting for you to give it some relevance to my experience. Let me quick jump to something I want to show you. Okay, so when I teach abnormal psychology, I have clips from TV shows that I interject throughout my lecture because I know these are TV shows that students often watch, and these TV shows or these movies can demonstrate the point I'm making. So I go to Criminal Minds because they got a lot of schizophrenic, psychopaths, personality disorders, killing everybody, and I'll select out one that matches up with what I want to talk about. I got hoarding. Hoarding is about obsessive compulsives. The Discovery Channel does a lot of eating disorder, body image stuff, especially for women. Movies, The Last King of Scotland with Forrest Whitaker, Paranoid Delusion. A movie that young folks, you don't know, but you need to go rent it because it's an old movie. It's called A 7% Solution. When Sigmund Freud meets Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes was a cocaine fiend. And the percentage of cocaine that he used was 7%. That's why the movie's called A 7% Solution. And so the movie's about Sigmund Freud analyzing him and trying to help him get over this cocaine fiend. But for Sherlock, taking cocaine heightens his senses, and that's why he could always figure out the clues to solve everything. It's a great movie. It's an old movie, but it's a great movie. And then if you know menace to society, that's about all these young black folk being sociopaths in LA and criminals. Okay? So see, I intersperse those. Why do I do that? Oops. I do that because I know a lot of students are visual learners, and that they'll get the concept and understand what I'm saying if I first connect it to something that's visual and entertaining and relevant to their experience. Okay? So visual learners, if they see focal points that they like, notice what they do. They stimulate their thinking, they get more interactive, they ask questions in class, etc. If they don't get focal points early on, they lose interest. They lose interest. Every time you sit in class, students, and process information, this is what you do. Information comes in, some of it you give attention to, some of it you don't. Then it goes from there to your short-term memory. Some of it you keep, some of it you don't. You have a filter in your short-term memory. You either send it through the filter or you stop it right there. Then it goes into long-term memory. That's exactly what happens. While I'm sitting here right now, that's exactly what you're doing. You paid selective attention to Criminal Minds and Menace to Society. You know why? Because it was relevant to you. So you sent it to your short-term memory already. Stuff only stays in short-term memory like 30 seconds. So if you talk about it later this evening, it's because you sent it to long-term memory. But there's something else that I've said earlier in this presentation that never made it past selective attention. That's exactly what you do. You spend your life doing that, whether in the classroom or not. Okay? So when we talk about diversity, and we talk about you, and this is where it gets complicated. Because, see, instructors are in the middle. The instructors create a classroom environment. They have their own teaching style. But here you are all on the outside. You got your own way you process information. You got your own learning style. You got your own communication style. And you have your own interaction style, while you may or may not interact with the instructor. Some of you might go a whole semester and not be understanding the material in the class well. And at the end of the semester, you decide to go and meet with the instructor. At the end of the semester, where it's too late now. Maybe it's because in your human-relational interaction style, you just feel uneasy going to meet with the instructor by yourself. Maybe that's it. But you got to understand, it's too late now. Okay? Your communication style is not what it should be in terms of writing papers. As I said, it's too casual, it's too influenced by your social interactions with people. Okay? I'm real hard on my students about two things: like and you know. You know, Doc, you know, it's like I was talking to these people, you know, and like every time you say it, I stop you. Every single time you say it, I stop you. And I say, think. I say, now go back and start the conversation and think to yourself, I'm not going to use like or you know. And then we have the conversation and they don't use it. I said, see, it's because you thought about it. But I said, if you use it out here casually with your friends, etc., you're going to use it here. You're going to put it in a paper. So that's where you are in terms of why you may be having problems or why you may be doing okay, because this is complex stuff here. You're on the outside, the instructor's on the inside. That's complex. So here's I'm finishing up. I know I got 2:20. Here's another couple questions about you. When do you think about your own thinking? How much do you know about your own thinking? That's a philosophy question, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm running it down right now.
Because you're going to throw it on somebody later this evening, huh? Later this evening, he's going to be talking to somebody and say, man, how much do you know about your own thinking, huh? That's called metacognition. Metacognition means you think about how you think. For example, you get an exam back and you got a question wrong. Do you just accept that it's wrong? Or do you try to analyze why it's wrong? See, if you analyze why it's wrong, you're thinking about your thinking. If you analyze your errors, you're thinking about your thinking. If you just accept it, that is, God marked it wrong, I got it wrong, now I got to see, and you walk away, you're not thinking about why you made the error. Okay? So one of the things we do in a lot of our programs is help students become metacognitive. We ask them to think about their thinking. Why did you use this process to answer the question this way? Or tell me about the process you used to answer this question. And you know what? For many of the students, it's the first time they even thought about the fact that they had a process they used to answer a question. First time they ever thought about that. So we're trying to train them to know that there's a process that you can use for answering a question. Or there's a process you can use to analyze your errors. So when I give an exam back, and let's say question 6, 70% of the people in the class got question 6 wrong. When I give you the exam back, I also give you another sheet of paper. And on this sheet of paper is question 6 answered 5 ways. From a perfect answer down to a terrible answer. 5 different ways. On your paper, next to question 6, you have a number in a circle that's from 1 to 5. That means your answer is like this one over here, number 3, or this number 2, or this number 5. Okay? So I'm comparing your answer to a list of answers that range from terrible to perfect. Then we have a discussion in class about it. I say, let me show you all why number 5 here is a perfect answer and number 3 is an average answer. See, I'm trying to help them analyze their answers by doing that. Over time, they get it. Over time, they get it. There's a lot of extra work for me. Doesn't matter. I'm paid for the extra work. I'm paid for your success. I don't care about the extra work. A lot of faculty members won't bother to do that because they don't care that much. But I'll do it because I want you to be more metacognitive, okay? Last thing, let's talk about effort and discipline. You said you discipline, remember? Effort is hard to measure sometimes. But this is kind of what, effort is tied to confidence. If you lack confidence, you give little effort. If you lack confidence. So here's some of the ways we can measure confidence. Well, let's look at 2 and 3 first. Let's look at students and how they look at confidence. In A, when confident students get a low grade, what do they say? They say, it's because I didn't do something enough. I didn't study enough. I didn't go see the instructor enough. I didn't read over my notes enough. It's always something that they can change, confident students. Students who lack confidence, what do they say? It's me. I can't do math. I can't do this. I don't know how to read that chapter. So the big difference between students who are confident versus lack confidence is where they attribute failure. Confident students attribute failure outside of themselves because they're confident about themselves. So it must be the instructor, must be that day I didn't go to class, I let Joe take my notes, and that dope, he didn't take the notes right. You know? It's something you can affect. Students who lack confidence always say, it's me. So what do we have to do when we create programs? We have to create programs to bolster their confidence. And we know that we can do that in 3 areas. We can help them intensify their effort, we can help them concentrate more, and we can help them take more risk. When students do essay questions for me, you might have 2 students who get the essay question wrong. One student wrote a whole lot of stuff on the essay question, but it's wrong. Another student didn't answer it at all. I give 2 or 3 points to the person that wrote a lot of stuff. You know why? They took a risk. They took a risk. They took a chance. Student who doesn't write anything, you're a coward, you didn't even try. I'm not giving you anything. But I'm going to give somebody who takes a risk. So we can create programs, and if you look at some of the top-notch programs in the country that have really bolstered academics' confidence, academic self-esteem, that's what they do. They do these kind of things. They guide students through a process where they are willing to show they can be more disciplined, show a little more effort, take more risk. And there's no penalty for it. No penalty for it at first. So you might answer questions and stuff like that, Nobody marks you wrong. We're just trying to show you the process you use to answer the question. Then maybe 3 or 4 weeks into the semester, you get graded for it. Okay? So there are things that we know we can do. I showed this morning. This is one I'll close on. Every course, students, that you take, there's what we call conceptual bottlenecks. That means there are points in the course where you begin to have difficulty understanding what's going on. We know what they are in every course. Accounting, we know it's debits, biology, cell division, chemistry, molarity, physics, vectors, engineering, philosophy. We know what they are. You have to change your thinking when you get to a bottleneck. Let's say you're going through the course and you're using rote memory. You're just going to memorize stuff. When you get to a conceptual bottleneck, rote memory doesn't work anymore. You got to go to a new strategy now because it doesn't work. Okay? Well, that's the responsibility of the people that work here, is to show you how to negotiate bottlenecks in course. By the way, courses are full of bottlenecks. If you don't get the early bottlenecks in a course, you never get the later ones. Remember those courses I said that have the high percentage of D's, F's, and W's? They're full of bottlenecks. And a bottleneck, by definition, means it's a point in a course where you start having difficulty understanding something. If you have difficulty in the beginning of the course, like biology, who's taking biology here? Right? Cell division, meiosis, mitosis, cell division, right? It's easy to memorize what are the stages of meiosis, what are the stages of mitosis. But then I could ask you another question that says, compare and contrast meiosis and mitosis and identify the similarities and differences. Whoa. Can't use rote memory no more. See, I asked you a question where you have to know the concepts. You need to identify the bottlenecks in your courses, because that's when you have to think differently in those bottlenecks. Okay? Rote memory doesn't work anymore. Your tutoring should be doing that. Or your supplemental instruction, or your mentors, whoever. There's got to be somebody that's helping you do that, or it won't work. All right, I'm going to stop there, take any last questions you might have. I hope that made sense to you. Hope you know a little bit more about yourself now, as a learner, or as a philosopher. Okay, no other questions? I appreciate it. I thank y'all for coming.
Here we go, sir. This is what I wrote.